So before I just show you the destruction, I thought I'd talk about how we got here, more about when we got here. But as you know, we were traveling the country for a while. We started out in a pop-up camper, did that for a year, and then someone burned down our pop-up camper in a national forest. Quite devastating. Got back on our feet within 2 weeks. We built ourselves a little truck camper. Made it out of 2x2s, and at first it was made out of Luan. But then the next year we put coroplast on top of it. And it held up fantastic. It just has done a fantastic job. We traveled a lot with it. I think 2 or 3 years, I can't remember. And then when we got here, it held up here as well. What was interesting is I didn't know how well it would be able to heat it. The way I designed it was the top was the Luan or the 2x2s or the coroplast, and I had that sort of insulated with like 1-inch styrofoam. And I just didn't know if I was going to be able to heat it or not. The problem is the bottom half of, you know, where you stood up was the truck bed. It was metal. There was no insulation to it. But we got it to work out. The bed laid on top of the truck bed and it was insulated okay. And it heated pretty easily. Real easy, actually. But I don't know why I was surprised. We heated that pop-up camper too. We hung blankets around it and it heated up okay. And so we moved here, I guess March of 2020. I guess we're coming up on 4 years. And the first day here was pretty hectic. Now, prior to that, we were at Mom's house and we were getting all the things that we needed, the well pump and the solar panels, charge controller. We were there a month and then we came down here. I guess we were there a month, maybe 2 months, regardless, it doesn't matter. And then we came down here. And fortunately, the weather cooperated. When we got down here, it didn't rain, it wasn't cold. We did really well, it was fantastic. Now, the ground was pretty muddy and that did have me concerned because we had to come down here with the truck. And I was just so worried it was gonna get stuck. And we didn't know anything about the area. This is the first time we'd ever been here. Well, other than when we bought it. And we didn't remember the property lines and all that, so we were walking, and the thing is the place was just covered in thorny bushes. I mean, just absolutely covered. I'll give you an idea what it was like, because some of this is still kind of covered in it. But this is what it was like. Just thorny bushes everywhere, just everywhere. So we had to fight through that. And everything we did, setting up the camper, setting up the well pump. And the thing is the night that we got here, I fell out of the truck camper off the tailgate and I turned my ankle. So I'm having to walk through those thorny bushes with a hurt ankle. I guess there was more good memories to it than bad memories. If you want to see some of the first days we were here, you can go to my channel. The intro page, the trailer to our channel, is the first day here. And then I think you can go over to playlist, and there's probably several videos on the playlist that you can see also. So the first day we were here, we got here a little bit late because we had to go shopping. Had to get more coroplast. So we went to Home Depot to get more coroplast. What I did was I built a base for the truck. Remember, the truck floor was the truck. So the camper sat on the truck rails. So I had to take the camper off and set it down on a base that I built at Mom's house. But the base I didn't trim out. I just built the frame. Because my plan was to set the truck camper on top of it, screw it down, and then do the coroplast. So we had to go get the coroplast. There was just a lot to do. So we got here pretty late. The next morning we got up, and the first thing we had to do was we had to worry about water. So I started working on the well. Carolyn and I dropped the well pump down in there, and the well water was just filthy dirty. We had to flush it out several times, but everything worked. None of the plans that we we did failed miserably. I mean, there were some hiccups, don't get me wrong, but nothing failed. The well pump worked, the generator pushed the well pump just fine. We didn't get stuck. Well then, I guess the next day, we had to get the truck off the trunk camper. And of course, like I said, my ankle was hurt. It was tough. Now my plan was, we had limited supplies. Remember, the truck camper was pretty heavy. The truck was a 4-cylinder, and so we're loading it up with tons of stuff when we come down here. Solar panels, and just, it was way overweight. So I couldn't afford to bring more stuff to accommodate easy transition into this life. But there was an old mobile home here, and they had 2x2s all of it. So I just started ripping 2x2s off, and I was going to use those as legs. So the plan is to lift the truck camper up with a jack high enough that I could attach one of those 2x2s to it on each side. So I had 4 legs. Pull the truck out, lower the truck camper down, it seemed like a good plan, onto the tailgate. So the front end would have been on the tailgate. And then I could have kind of manipulated it. The plan was to kind of start cutting the legs off just a little bit at a time, so I could just kind of flop it down a little bit at a time. That didn't work. That didn't work at all. It worked for a while, and then it got off balance, and all my bracing that I'd put up, but it broke and it started to fall over. And I thought, this is it. I just messed up. Carolyn fell down. Fortunately, she didn't get hurt, but she fell down. And when I saw her fall, but I would have rather her fall than that camper come down on her. And I just knew the camper was wrecked. So we picked ourselves back up, looked at it, and it held up. It held up. So we would have spent several hours trying to lower that down. We saved ourselves probably, I don't know, let's just call it 4 hours by letting it fall down like that. So even the plan that failed helped us out. So we got it on the base, and by nighttime, we were able to sleep in it. Then the next day, we set up the shower. We basically put in a permanent shower into the truck camper, rearranged it so there was a cooking area better for Carolyn, and just different things. And then we started cleaning this place up, and we used a sickle bar to start mowing. And so this is the results of that. It's all cleaned up now. I mean, you can see how bad it was. This is a little stump here I've just never gotten out of here. Everything was this high, and everything had these thorny bushes. Everything, just thorns everywhere. And the thing is once you cut the thorns down, now you have this thorn that is not attached to a tree, is laying on the ground, so it would snag your pants. Then you would have to try to pull that off your pants. So, but these thorns are just everywhere. It was quite miserable, but we had to get it cleaned up because I was worried about copperheads. And then that summer we started working on firewood and building a tiny house. And so we had, I think, 8 cords of firewood. Of course, we burned that pretty quick, because what I did was I hooked up an old Franklin wood stove and made an outdoor heat exchanger. And the heat exchanger idea worked fantastic. It kept us warm, probably too warm. I had to put vents in and everything, but it just used a ton of firewood. It used all 8 cords that we'd gotten that summer. And the thing is, we didn't have any fancy equipment. I'm sitting on the John Deere lawnmower right now. I would have loved to have had that, but we're pulling out deadfall out of the woods here, and I had this little hand wagon right here, and I'm pulling this hand wagon up the hill. There's a huge hill here. One load at a time. 8 cords that thing pulled out of the woods. There was a lot of work that first year, but now everything's set. I think on the 3rd day I set up the solar panels, got those halfway working. I mean, everything's working fine now. We can run the well pump off the solar and air conditioning. We have a camper here that Carolyn's son stayed in for a while. We've nailed the life that we wanted. That summer, we started tearing down the mobile home right away. It was pretty much tore down as it was, but there were sections in it that needed cleaned up. And just a lot of cleanup is basically what it needed. So we started on that. Of course, you'll see that first video on my channel, you'll see the mobile home. So then what I started doing was I could use some of the lumber that came off that mobile home, and I started building the floor. What we were trying to do is spend about $500 a month, but we had to buy materials. We were trying to find sales. We were in the middle of the pandemic. We couldn't go out to hardware stores. There was just a lot of complications. But the floor got built right away. And then by September, I think it was September or October, I started really hammering down on building a tiny house. And I've actually started making a series of videos just recently, showing, kind of just doing old clips of the collage or whatever you want to call it of the tiny house build. Those videos didn't do well, so I didn't continue doing them. So we were still living in that truck camper, and we lived in that truck camper for almost a year on this property. So that was, we moved out of that in January. So from March to January, we lived in that truck camper. And everything was a success. So then we started using that truck camper as a storage shed. We actually put the chickens in it for a while. Then we put some straw in it. Just different things. And then it became a junk collection of things that we weren't using anymore, just kind of a storage area for stuff. I told you a while back that we started demolishing it. We were actually using it for the control room of all the electronics for the solar panels. Well, Carolyn last summer bought this shed, put it together, and so now we're much more organized now because all the batteries are in here laying out the where they're supposed to, and we have everything hooked up appropriately, and you can trace out the wires now pretty easily. But prior to that, we had it in the truck camper. The problem was it wasn't designed to hold that stuff. So I had batteries laying everywhere. This was not hooked up correctly in the truck camper. Well, I had like 5 batteries sitting on that overhang. There was an overhang that overhung the cab of the truck, and that overhang started to collapse. It was built out of 2x2s. There was no way it could hold that much weight. We decided it was time for the truck camper to go, not because it wasn't well built. I mean, the trolls love to say, you should have put more time and money and effort into that. No, it did great. There was nothing wrong with it other than I put too many batteries in it. We needed it lightweight for that little truck. So the trolls, they do it just to try to aggravate me, but it was perfect. It worked perfectly. There was nothing wrong with it. You know, people will say, well, that coroplast, it started to degrade that last year it was sitting here. Well, yeah, after what, 4 years? And the coroplast wasn't that expensive. It was like $8 a sheet. I only needed like 10 sheets, so $80, and I could have hung it back up. It wasn't designed to last forever. It was designed to take care of us while we were on the road. Cheap and light. I needed light material, and the trolls can't seem to figure that out. So we started demolishing it. Winter got in the way a little bit, so we had to slow down the progress, but we finally got it all picked up. I still got the door here, but I've been kind of using the door because it got so muddy down here that I was using it to keep my traction, but I'll get rid of that too. So now we're just kind of raking all up the mess and the styrofoam and everything that kind of fell apart. But you can see we use concrete blocks to hold it up off the ground. And this over here was the overhang. So we kind of use that as a shed. And if you really pay close attention, we laid bricks down here. We found bricks up there by the mobile home. And we used this, so yeah, that first spring that we were here, oh, it was so wet and muddy, it was terrible. You couldn't walk. So the refrigerator was in here. Had to lay this brick down just so we get the refrigerator. But I think we also laid brick down on the other side here. And Carolyn made a crocheted rug out of plastic bags. I think you can see that. It's laying right here. That thing held up. I can't believe how well it held up. Maybe it's not the plastic bags. Maybe that was something else. But you can see that it's a crocheted thing, and it used it as a rug. So we have bricks here. I was thinking today, well, I guess this is the last piece of our old life, and so now everything's this new life. I'm glad it's gone. I'm gonna miss it. I liked it, but once it started falling apart because of the battery weight, it was time for it to go. I liked living in it. It was the first night we stayed in it was just, It was quite amazing. Thing is even the trolls say I should have done a better job. It lasted for as long as we needed it. It's lasted 4 years, I guess, here, and then at least another 2 or 3 years on the road. So we'll get this all raked up. Somehow or another, the ground has lifted up here. I won't be able to mow that. We'll have to level that out a little bit. And then we can get the barrels rearranged here. You can see we got trash bags that we need to get out of here. Our little tiny house, our first tiny house, it has been demolished. And on to bigger and better things now. So if you'll click this up next box, it'll take you to that first video that we came here. So if I can inspire you to build your dreams when you're living your dreams. Thanks for watching.